I was thrown out after my sister accused me of stealing her wedding ring. 3 years later, they found it behind the kitchen sink. I never thought I would have to tell this story. My name is Nathan. I'm 26 years old, and 3 years ago, my family destroyed our relationship over a wedding ring that never even left our house. My older sister, Lauren, was 29 at the time. Our parents, David and Marissa, had raised us in a small Ohio town in a modest 2-story house they bought shortly after getting married. It wasn't a perfect home, but it was ours. The hallway still smelled like my mother's lavender cleaner. The stairs creaked in the same places they had when we were kids. There were pencil marks along the kitchen doorway showing how tall Lauren and I had grown over the years. I thought that house represented safety. I thought my family represented loyalty. I was wrong. It happened 3 weeks before Lauren's wedding to her fiancé, Ethan. The entire house had become a wedding planning center. There were flower arrangements on the dining room table, invitation samples scattered across the living room, and enough ribbons, boxes, and decorations to fill an entire warehouse. Lauren was stressed, but I tried to help. I drove her to appointments. I picked up her dress from the tailor. I helped compare catering prices and even spent one Saturday afternoon assembling wedding favors while she sat beside me, changing her mind every 10 minutes. I didn't complain. She was my sister. I wanted her wedding to be perfect. The ring was especially important to her. It had belonged to our grandmother, who had passed away years earlier. It was an old emerald-cut diamond set in a delicate platinum band. Ethan had paid to have it restored and polished before proposing. Lauren treated it like it was priceless. She wore it almost everywhere, except when she washed dishes. On those nights, she placed it in a little blue ceramic bowl on the kitchen windowsill. Our mother had warned her repeatedly. "Lauren, that window is too close to the sink," Mom would say. "Put the ring in your jewelry box." Lauren always laughed. "It's fine, Mom. I'm not going to lose it." The night it disappeared was a Thursday. I remember because I had worked a late shift at the bookstore. I got home around 10:45 p.m., exhausted and hungry. I walked through the kitchen, filled a glass of water, and went upstairs. I didn't notice the blue bowl. I didn't notice whether the ring was inside it. I didn't even think about Lauren's ring. Why would I? At 11:38 p.m., I was lying in bed when someone slammed open my bedroom door. Lauren stood there, crying. Her face was pale, and her eyes were red.
"Where is it?" she demanded.
I sat up. "Where's what?" "My ring." I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" "The ring was on the windowsill, and now it's gone. You were the last person in the kitchen." I was still trying to understand what she was saying when our parents appeared behind her. My father's expression was cold. My mother looked frightened. That was the moment I realized they had already decided what had happened. My father stepped inside. "Empty your pockets," he said. I actually laughed because I thought he was joking. "Dad, I don't have your daughter's ring." I said, "Empty your pockets." I pulled everything out. My wallet, my keys, my phone, a receipt from the bookstore, a pen, nothing. Then he pointed at my backpack. "Open it." I opened it. They searched every compartment. They checked my jacket, my laundry basket, and the drawers in my nightstand. My mother went through my closet while Lauren stood near the doorway, crying and accusing me with her eyes. I kept repeating the same words. "I didn't take it. I would never steal from you. I don't even know where your ring is." But every time I spoke, Lauren shook her head. "You're lying." "I'm not. You've been bitter about this wedding for months." That sentence hit me harder than the accusation itself. "Bitter?" I asked. "I've been helping you plan it. You think everyone is paying attention to me," she said. "You think I'm getting everything you never had." I stared at her. I had no idea what she was talking about. She had a fiancé who adored her, a wedding being paid for by our parents, and a family working nonstop to make her happy. What exactly was I supposed to be jealous of? My father opened the bottom drawer of my dresser and threw my clothes onto the floor. "Maybe he already sold it," Lauren said. My head snapped toward her. "You think I pawned it? You were the last one in the kitchen. That doesn't mean I stole it. It means you had the opportunity."
That was all I was to them in that moment.
An opportunity. A suspect. a convenient villain. My father finally turned toward me. His voice was quiet, but it carried more force than yelling ever could. If you have that ring, return it now. I don't have it. Then where is it? I don't know. He stared at me for several seconds. Then he said, "Get out." The room went silent. I thought I had misheard him. What? Get out of my house. Dad, I'm your son. Not tonight. My mother covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't stop him. She didn't defend me. She didn't say, "Wait, we need proof." She just stood there while my father banished me from the only home I had ever known. "Come back when you return the ring," he said. I looked at my mother. "Mom." She lowered her eyes. That was when something inside me cracked. My father's accusation hurt, but my mother's silence destroyed me. She had held me when I was sick. She had comforted me after nightmares. She had kissed every childhood injury and told me I was safe. Yet when I needed her to say one sentence, "My son would never do this," she said nothing. I packed one duffel bag. I took some clothes, my laptop, my wallet, and a small wooden box containing letters my grandmother had written to me. The same woman whose ring I was accused of stealing. I stood at the bottom of the stairs for one last moment. That house had held my entire childhood. My first Christmases. My parents' arguments. Lauren's graduation party. My grandmother's final birthday. And suddenly, none of it belonged to me anymore. As I opened the front door, Lauren called after me. "Don't bother coming to my wedding, thief." I turned around. She looked angry, not sorry. I wanted to ask her why she hated me so easily. I wanted to ask why she was willing to destroy me without evidence. Instead, I walked out. That night, I slept in my car. The next night, too. And the night after that. I worked at the bookstore, but I didn't earn enough for a hotel. I parked behind a 24-hour grocery store and slept in the driver's seat with a jacket pulled over me. Every morning, I washed my face in a public restroom. I bought the cheapest food I could find. I kept my phone turned off because I couldn't bear to hear another accusation. After 2 weeks, my coworker Samuel found out. He noticed I was wearing the same clothes several days in a row. One morning, he saw me climb out of my car before work. He didn't ask me for the whole story. He simply said, "You're staying at my apartment tonight." I tried to refuse. He shook his head. "Don't be proud about this. You need a place to sleep." A man I had known for less than a year gave me the kindness my family had refused to offer. Meanwhile, my mother called me. I answered because some part of me still hoped she would apologize. Instead, she said, "Nathan, if you know where the ring is, just tell us. We can handle this quietly." I closed my eyes. "Mom, I don't have it. You need to understand how serious this is." "I understand perfectly, but Lauren is devastated. And I'm homeless." There was a long pause. Then she whispered, "Your father is furious." I almost laughed. Why is he furious? Because I stole the ring, or because he can't find it? She began crying, but she never said she believed me. I ended the call. Lauren got married without me. I saw the pictures online before she blocked me. She wore a temporary ring because the original was still missing. In the photographs, everyone looked happy. Lauren smiled beside Ethan. My parents stood behind them, and I was nowhere. Not in the photographs. Not at the ceremony. Not in their family speeches. I had been erased because of an accusation that had never been proven. For the next year, I lived quietly. I moved to Columbus and found a better job. I enrolled in evening classes and started building a life that had nothing to do with my family. I rented a small apartment. I bought second-hand furniture. I made friends who knew me only as Nathan, not as the son accused of stealing. I stopped waiting for my father to call. I stopped checking whether my mother had sent a message. I stopped imagining Lauren standing outside my apartment, apologizing. At first, I thought I was becoming bitter. Then I realized I was becoming careful. There is a difference. Bitter people want others to suffer. Careful people simply refuse to hand the same person the weapon twice. By the second year, I had accepted that my family was gone. Not dead, exactly, but gone in every way that mattered. I celebrated holidays with friends. I adopted a cat named Button. I started therapy. I learned that grief doesn't only come from losing someone to death. Sometimes grief comes from realizing someone is alive and still choosing not to love you properly. Then, 3 years after the accusation, my phone rang. It was my mother. I almost didn't answer. When I did, she was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her.
"Nathan," she said.
"We found it." My chest tightened. "Found what?" "The ring." I sat down on the edge of my bed. "What?" "They were renovating the kitchen," she said. "The contractors removed the sink cabinet, and it was there, behind the basin, wedged between the plumbing and the wall." I couldn't speak. My mother kept talking. The ring had never left the house. It had not been pawned. It had not been sold. It had not been hidden in my room. It had simply slipped behind the sink. Most likely, Lauren had knocked it off the windowsill while reaching for a towel. It had fallen into the narrow space behind the basin and remained there for 3 years. 3 years. 3 years of being called a thief. 3 years of being excluded. 3 years of my family telling themselves I was guilty. All because no one had been willing to consider the simplest explanation. My mother begged me to come home. "Your father feels terrible," she said. "Lauren wants to apologize. We should all sit down together." "A family meeting?" "Yes." "Why?" "So we can heal." I stared at the wall.
"Heal?"
They wanted me to help them heal from the consequences of what they had done to me. My father had thrown me out. My sister had publicly called me a thief. My mother had allowed it. Now that the truth had appeared, they wanted me to return and make everyone feel better. My mother said, "We're still family." I answered quietly, "You stopped acting like family 3 years ago." She began crying again. "We made a mistake." "No," I said. "A mistake is forgetting an appointment. A mistake is losing a ring. What you did was a choice. Nathan, you chose to believe I was guilty without proof. You chose to search my room. You chose to throw me out. You chose to let Lauren tell everyone I was a thief. And you chose not to look for the truth until it became impossible to avoid." There was silence on the line. Then she whispered, "Can't you forgive us?" I looked around my apartment, at the life I had built without them, at the peace I had fought for. "You didn't lose a ring," I said. "You lost your son." My voice shook, but I continued. "And unlike that ring, I'm not something you get to find 3 years later and put back where I used to be." Then I hung up. After that, my father left a voicemail. He said he was ashamed. He said he had failed me. He said he wished he could take back that night. I listened once. Only once. Because regret does not reverse consequences. His tears couldn't give me back the nights I spent sleeping in my car. His apology couldn't erase the way my sister looked at me while my belongings were thrown across the floor. His guilt couldn't restore the trust he destroyed in less than an hour. Lauren sent me an email. The first line said, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I deleted it. Not because I was cruel. Because I was tired of being expected to carry the emotional weight of people who had dropped me the moment I became inconvenient. They wanted forgiveness because forgiveness would make them feel like decent people again. But I had spent 3 years learning how to live without their approval. I didn't owe them relief. I didn't owe them a reunion. I didn't owe them access to the person they had abandoned. People say blood is thicker than water. But blood did not give me a place to sleep. Blood did not defend me. Blood did not believe me. A stranger gave me a couch. A coworker gave me food. #friends helped me rebuild. The people who shared my last name were the ones who pushed me into the dark. So no, I did not attend the family reunion. I did not return home for Thanksgiving. I did not sit at that old kitchen table and pretend the last 3 years were a misunderstanding. Some doors close because people are angry. Others close because the room behind them is no longer safe. I have forgiven myself for believing they would always protect me. I have forgiven myself for missing them. But I have not forgotten. And I will never again confuse an apology with accountability. If someone destroys your life and only apologizes after the truth exposes them, you are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to refuse reconciliation, even when the people begging you are related to you. Asterisk, asterisk, you are not heartless for choosing peace. You are not cruel for remembering what happened. You are not obligated to return to the place where you were broken simply because the people who broke you finally feel guilty. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Follow for more stories about betrayal, survival, boundaries, and choosing yourself after the people you trusted failed you. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive your family after the truth came out, or would you leave the past where it belonged? Because sometimes the missing ring is eventually found. But the trust? That may be gone forever.